G'day everybody, Andy Maher here. Welcome to The Blueprint, proudly brought to you by our friends at Hyundai. Joining me once again, it wouldn't be The Blueprint without him, his former champion skipper, Marc Murphy. Great to see you. Sellers, here we are again.
Andy, great to be here, and good win the other night again. The other day on Sunday.
It's 1-1 since we were here last time.
Yes.
Disappointing the Monday night. We'll have a chat a bit about that. But they were dogged against a pretty good Port Adelaide. They're a side that makes you beat them these days, and we did what we had to do. Could have probably been a bit more emphatic in the end.
They're a exciting young side, but we got a few things that we want to point out that were good and bad from the game, and we'll go through those. But they're an interesting mob. They've won 5, and they're 5-3 now. And they're well in front of us at this stage, so it was a good win at this stage, and we need to get better. We
had 3 milestones over the weekend against Port Adelaide. Big ones, all of them. 150 games for Marc Murphy and Andrew Walker, and 250 games for Heath Scotland, who just keeps on keeping on. It was good to get such a big win on such a significant day for them, wasn't it?
He gave his wife a bit there, didn't he?
Well, he's pretty focused. He's got the game face on. You know, he's more worried about making sure he doesn't drop the kids as they go through the banner.
They're good players.
What a good season he's having.
He's a superstar now, Walker. He played down up forward. He's kicked over 50 goals. Now he goes down back and outstanding. This kid's a beauty too. He is really turning into a good player. He knows his limitations and he's playing to them beautifully.
150 for the skipper in an unusual role, and it's one that we'll have a chat about a bit later on. And 197 games at the football club now for Heath Scotland. Obviously his 200 comes up pretty soon, hopefully on a pretty significant day for both he and Chris Judd. We'll talk about that in a couple of weeks' time. But the milestones in your day, were milestones a big deal for players at the footy club?
Well, it's an individual thing, and that's about it. But, you know, I mean, the thing is that...
but did teammates want to get up for
Well, if you have to get lifted by someone's milestone game, there's something wrong with you. I mean, it's about playing for your club and your jumper and a bit of pride in what goes on. And I think the milestones is good for those guys to make their number, but they're more important about winning.
And that's what it's all about.
Of course.
We'll do more of that if we can do the fundamentals right. Effort and intensity and all of those things are crucial, and there was certainly plenty of that on display against Port Adelaide. The tackling
I want to show you something. I want to show you some tackling, and it's from the 3 youngest guys in our team, Karshia, Bell and Curnow. They had 24 tackles between them.
It's a good number,
and I think it's a really good number for those. Karshia had 10 and the rest had 7 each between them, and it's terrific because what they're doing is fighting for their place in the side, and they're showing people that they want to have the workload and hit hard, and it's a difference. You know what happens? You put Lucas, Jarrad, Murphy and
Gibbs?
No, Gibbs didn't play.
No.
Maclure.
Yep.
Yeah, you put those 4 together, they had 15 between them, and these 3 had 24. Well, that shows a little sign that I want to be in this side, and I love Bell because he's got a good size about him. The size of Bell is what we need in football. The Pendleburys of the world are unique. Bell's almost as big as that, and we need more midfielders who are tall. I think that's one of the reasons why they moved Murphy forward, just to try a little bit to see what happens, get him out of that midfield.
Might have a chat about that, but just on the likes of Jarrad Waite and Tom Bell coming into the side, isn't there a message being sent to every player on this list at the moment? It feels like this club's very much, and under Mick Moldhouse, he's finding out about players, and there's certainly a green light, I reckon, being given to just about every player on the list. If you do all the right things underneath, I reckon you're going to get a look at some senior football this year, and surely the encouragement for the players outside the first 22 at the moment must be pretty significant.
Well, it is, and it makes you feel good if you're on the list and you can play. And every kid who gets picked up in this draft can play. Doesn't matter what club you're at, Melbourne, St Kilda, whatever. They all are very good. It's how you handle yourself and what you do when you haven't got the ball. And that's what I really liked about those 3. That when they hadn't got the ball, they were doing something. They were making themselves a presence in the game. So that was terrific. There's a couple of other little things that I was a little bit disappointed in as well.
I know one of them.
Leaking goals.
Yeah.
We leaked too many easy goals. I mean, we had dominated the game. We probably had 60 or 70 more possessions in that game against the opposition, and we won by 18 points. We were poor kicking as well. Poor kicking for goal. And we do it every week. The same offenders do it again and again and again. And Murphy's one of them. He's a good player. Judd's another one. Cruz is another one. There's and Waite's another one. Mitch Robinson's. Oh, well, Mitch Robinson, fair dinkum.
You know what you get from him, don't you?
I know what you get, but you can also get better. And that's one of the things. He's got to improve in a lot of areas. So, and I think there's a few things that we can improve on. And also the other one is selection. Wouldn't be bad.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of issues that arose out of the St Kilda game that I think will probably never repeat again. And I know we did want to talk about it a bit later on, but I can't believe the 3 ruckmen. As soon as you sat there and you looked at the 3 ruckmen playing, you thought, we're going to be in a bit of strife here if this ball spends too much time on the ground, particularly the way St Kilda was going to play one-on-one and try and run us off our legs. And that's what they did 2 weeks ago. And I don't know whether you've got a message to the chairman of selectors or whether you want to make us the selection panel here, but if I said to you I want to play 3 ruckmen again, what would you say to me?
I'd knock you out.
Right. Right.
And seriously, no, first thing that came in my head. I shouldn't have said that.
Fair enough.
But, yeah, seriously, because it is insanity.
Yeah.
Look, and I think we could be the chairman, and the viewers can be. They can be on the committee as well.
Yep.
They've got a few points coming up, which I think are very, very sound.
If you want to share your views on that, you know where to come. We have talked about Marc Murphy a little bit on the show already. It was an unfamiliar role we saw him placed in, and the role that he performed against Port Adelaide, the small forward. Admittedly, there's no Jarrad and no Betts, so maybe from a balance perspective, the coaches wanted to, supplement that part of the ground with another small.
They sure did, but you know what they did? They took a tagger away from him out of the midfield, and he goes down back and he plays in a position that he doesn't actually like. So that was a bit of smart in that as well.
I wonder whether Mick's starting to work a few things out about, even a player as high a calibre as Marc Murphy, and Cade Simpson's another one.
Down back.
Simpson's gone back now, and Murphy going forward. The 3 big body boys that you've already mentioned, along with McLean, go into the midfield. I wonder whether Mick's starting to work out that he likes a certain type in the middle of the ground, the cut and thrust, particularly of a centre bounce, and maybe players like Simpson and Murphy away from that cut and thrust. I wonder whether this is something that we're going to see more of throughout the course of the season.
I think he's testing them. He's finding out. I think he's finding out more, and I think that, walking down back was an unusual one for most people. What? Why? This is the best forward we got, I think playing the 3 tools sometimes was a test, but it didn't work, so he moved on, and I think that's a good idea. Waite coming in, and I actually like him taking Waite off the other day. Menzel had to have a run, and I really enjoyed him coming on the young kid, and I hope he stays in the side. But Waite taking him off and saying, listen, you're not playing that well. You look like you're limping a bit. See you later, gone. Send a message. You're not always required in this business. We can get rid of you at any time. I think there's a really good message coming through.
With Waite back into the side, it does beg the question now: what do they do with the ruckman, and how do they support Jarrad Waite with the second tall down there? Matthew Cruiser appears to be the one, and we certainly find the Twitter question out. We'll get to the responses about that in a minute.
Yeah, but marks inside 50 haven't been our strong point.
No, they have not.
And with Cruiser there, they are. I know Cruz, for mine, doesn't want to play there. Well, guess what, son? You're going to have to learn because this is your spot in life for a while, and you can get a lot better, and you just got to take it on and improve yourself.
Has he got what it takes, you reckon?
Yes, he has.
Yeah.
He's got all the ability. He can pick the ball up off the ground. He can mark in the air. He's got good pace. He understands the game. I think he just needs a little bit more tuition in the angles where to run. That's where his key is. One
of the real positives has been the form of Robbie Warnock, who, with a bit of continued football and playing with those midfielders at his feet, he's really starting to have a bit of an influence on games of footy at the moment, which is a great thing to see.
Yeah, and we need to have Cruz up there until we can develop a Rowe, a Casbolt, Mitchell, one of those sorts of guys who can play up forward and be that leading player with Waite, because you can't bank on Waite.
Well, the challenge is there. We mentioned that the challenge is there for the young fellas on the list at the moment, but certainly for those young forwards who you just mentioned, there's a real green light being waved in front of them at the moment. If they want to take it by the nettle and have a real crack. Remember, if you want to get involved in the show, you can send in your questions and comments via Twitter at #TheBlueprint or email the club with the blueprint in the subject line via blues@carltonfc.com.au. This week we did ask you, do you prefer Matthew Cruiser up forward or in the ruck? Someone who calls themselves One Guy in Melbourne, Sellers, said forward, Warnock is having a great season doing ruck work. Cruiser's more versatile up forward. We'll whip through these and get your thoughts off the end of them. Tyson Curry thinks Warnock is better in the ruck, put Cruiser forward and leave him there. There's a developing theme here. Jacob Warber reckons up forward, took 5 marks inside 50 last week. He'd be unstoppable. Matt Finlay says you have to play your best players in their best positions. I don't like seeing Cruise up forward. And finally, James Calvert-Jones simply believes centre half forward. There seems to be a shared view amongst the Carlton supporters that he is the one outside of Jarrad Waite to rest our hopes of as that ruck forward, the second target, the type of player who seems to have been so successful at other clubs.
Well, most people are drafted because they're a midfielder in this business. Not everyone plays in the midfield. Some play in the back pocket, some play forward pocket, some play wing. Cruiser may have been drafted as a ruckman, but he needs to develop other areas to make him a stronger player and a better player. This is really good for him.
Yep.
Good time of his life that he can learn another position and still be able to use the ruck at some stage, because Warnock is dominating in that area at the moment.
He really is.
He is, and I think that 70-30 would be a really good mix for those two in the ruck. And I think there's some really good, interesting tweets there about some stuff. So it's
been,
good.
It's been a couple of weeks since the St Kilda game, and at the end of the day, it was an unfortunate and distasteful result for all Carlton supporters. But there was a highlight. He went on to play his 150th game the next week, Andrew Walker. But gee,
he was playing this
mate,
game.
He was
those blokes in the red and black.
The Greater Western Sydney, West Sydney Wanderers. He had the Mark of the Year stolen off him last year. It was last year or 2 years ago. Absolute crime that he didn't get it. The mark he took over Jake Carlisle. Andrew Cracker beating that. Nick, can you believe it? That's going to take some beating for the goal of the year. I mean, 5 bounces. Goal.
And confidence, his confidence is building. You know, he says to go, get out of there and take him out of the way for me. I'm going for it. You could see all the players there. We saw Hampson go back towards goal. And that's not what you want from your forwards. We keep talking about it. If you watch the film, you've got to come at the player. What happens then if you're smart? You let your player go to him and you get a little one over the top.
Well, there's a lot more to look forward to. We've got Brisbane this weekend. They ran into a bit of form. They've lost a couple of players. We know that. They might get a couple back. Hopefully we'll get 1 or 2 back. Looks like Bryce Gibbs might be back into the side this week, but that is a danger game. We've had some real trouble against them in recent years. We know what they did to us in the NAB Cup Grand Final. So a big test, and let's hope that when we come back in a couple of weeks, we're talking about
must-win game.
Win over the Brisbane.
A must-win game.
It is.
Yeah.
Good to catch up with you.
It's great. Good to see you, mate.
That's all we have time for on today's show. We'll be back in a couple of weeks' time, so catch us then on Thursday, the 6th of June. Until then, go Blues, enjoy your footy. Bye for now.